Well, a very good morning to you. It's raining, but it hasn't stopped my enthusiasm for the next project. Let me just put this door on the snib so that I don't lock myself out. I'm just stood here by the front door and I'm pointing the camera over towards what's going to be the new vegetable bed. And I'm making it very much the same way as I made the rustic bed, or both the rustic beds. This is one of the rustic beds, and for those newcomers, this is the other. And the bed is made straight onto gravel, and you can see I'm just edging it with whatever materials I have, and the materials at the moment are stone and logs and pieces of wood. So I'm just following the actual outline of this old gravel, just where the new gravel meets it. And as I'm making it, because it's actually quite big, now I don't know what the dimensions are, I'm sure you can work those out for yourself roughly, because you're very familiar with this driveway. But I'm thinking to myself, I need to make a little path through it. So remember yesterday I was talking about keeping this path open over here. So what I think I'm going to do, you just watch now where I walk. If I walk straight towards it, there we go. It's the entrance to one of the little woodland sanctuary gardens. And then I look back. So I think the little path through it's going to come this way. Otherwise it's going to be difficult to reach either side of the bed. What I might do as well is kind of not make the path straight. So I'll curve it a little bit in line with what I've got here. So it's essential, I think, when you make a vegetable bed to be able to reach into both sides of it. So, mushta, Jack, sniffing around the logs. So I think that the actual path will probably go a little bit like this, kind of round a little bit, back, and then over towards this little entrance. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. The rain hasn't stopped play. It's kind of drizzle, so it is, wet enough to get you wet. So making sure that this is wide enough to push the wheelbarrow through, at all times. So I've just moved this little pot of ferns here. I've moved it from, I think it was, where was it? It was here. And I couldn't use stepping stones, Barbara, because they'd get too slippy. In this climate here in Ireland, stepping stones are best avoided because you can see where you have this dampness, you have slippiness. So that's one of the reasons why I have the gravel. You have good firm bite, on the foot. So I'm going to have to just prune back a few of these wee things here. This is Cotoneaster, which is gorgeous because it crawls and creeps all over the ground. And this is a little Buddleia. That's it, Barbara. Yes, I've got moss. Lots and lots and lots of moss, which is very beautiful. And it certainly doesn't hinder the plants from growing, because look at that golden oregano, which is still in kind of full flight there. And the lavender. And indeed the rosemary. So the moss doesn't hinder the growing. In fact, in some cases it sort of adds to the growing, because what I quite often do is I pick the moss when it gets too thick in these areas that I use, and I put that into the compost heap. Curves blend into nature. Yes, absolutely, Bubbles. Curves, nature actually loves curves. She works better with me when I'm trying to create with her. And that's why I don't have straight lines. Wherever possible, I don't have straight lines. So I follow natural curves, and in many ways, those curves are very intuitive to follow. And sometimes, like in this case, they're just practical to follow. And You don't see straight lines in nature really, do you? I'm trying to think just off the top of my head. Very rarely see straight lines in nature. So now, so how am I going to take this forward? Well, this is going to be quite a shallow bed. I mean, it's going to be exactly on the same lines as the rustic beds here, okay? So I can raise them a little bit. That's no problem. You know, I can kind of jiggle about with the stones and the logs and raise it if I need to. But basically what I'm going to do, once the outline has been done, I might even start before the outline is finished. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay cardboard inside. Okay? Just one layer of cardboard with a good overlap. On top of that, I'm going to put sheep's wool. Why? 2 reasons. I've got lots of it from my neighbour, and 2, it is, well actually 3 reasons. 2, it's a great food for the plants when the roots go down into it. 3, it's a fantastic slug deterrent because wool, sheep's wool, the raw sheep's wool, the reason why you can spin it is because it's like miniature barbed wire. It's barbed. It's barbed, so it clings to, you know, the fibres cling to each other. Now, because it's barbed, the slugs don't like it. I mean, would you crawl over barbed wire? Well, of course not. Will slugs see wool in the same way? So wool, and then on top of that, I'm going to put a layer of compost, which again is my secret weapon when it comes to growing. I mean, all these beds have had sprinklings of compost. The compost is absolutely the richest, most long-lasting fertiliser you can get. It'll do a whole season and more. And then on top of that, some compost. Now, I would use my own compost, but a lot of seeds come up in it that I don't particularly want for a vegetable bed. Fine for the rustic beds, and you can see all the different kinds of seeds coming up in it. Look, there's foxgloves there, there's valerian, there's, what's in here now? Let me just say, of course there's some weeds as well, buttercups. And borage and all kinds of stuff. But I don't want that coming up in the vegetable beds, because we all know that to grow a flower bed is one thing. You can kind of just mix and match everything and it'll all come together around a cottage. But when you're doing a vegetable bed, you want to be a bit more specific. So that's it. Now, I'm not even going to wait to finish this bed, you know, to finish the outline before I start filling it in. Because this is how I work. Bits and pieces all the time, and eventually the bits and pieces come together to form one mass. And before you know it, there's a big vegetable bed there, and people are saying, gasping, "Oh gosh, did you make all that?" And I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, you break a big task down into as many small tasks as you either want or you manage, or you can manage. And that's how you go on, and you don't let the weather deter you. Now, having said that, I'm getting a bit wet. So I'm going to just stand here by the door. Just stand here a little bit, because I don't have my coat on. So I'm just going to kind of focus this over there. I think it's going to look really lovely when it's finished. It'll look, well, it's got to be aesthetically pleasing. And that's again why I avoid these straight lines. You know, you see a lot of vegetable gardens, you know, kind of boxy looking. Lots and lots of boxy shapes. There's something deep down in my soul which turns away from that. Don't like it. I know it's more practical. But then when you think of our human impact on the earth, we have always taken a practical and what suits us approach, and maybe that's where the mistake has always been, you know, that if we take a more sort of humble approach in a way, where we're just working with nature and we're looking for as much natural environment, you know, to kind of keep co-creating that natural environment. And as I say that, all the birds are there and they're flitting about and having a lovely time. And just see, I don't know if you can see them. I don't know if the camera's picking this up. Oh, the odd one that's picking up, I'm sure. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, to kind of getting more and more done. So I'm just going to be dodging in and out during the rain. Look at this beautiful spider's web, look. Isn't that beautiful? Is that a good picture, can you tell me? Or is it messing about? Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So delicate. Just by the front door. How you remember the names of the plants? Well, it's the same way as how you remember the names of friends and people you know. You look at their face and their face is different from everyone else's and you remember their name. So plants are the same. You know, you just look at the plant, you look at its face and you know what it is. I suppose that's the best way to describe it. How do I remember the names of plants? I don't remember all the names, but I kind of know the families that they belong to. So, you know, you can quite easily identify what are shrubs, what are flowers, what are annuals. And when you love Mother Earth as much as I do, you know, you're actually inquisitive to know the names. And don't forget, of course, I am 63 years old. I've had lots and lots of time to absorb the names. Good morning, Craig. You woke up in the middle of the night. Oh, you are a devotee. So, yeah. So I was very enthusiastic to get going this morning. You know, I really couldn't wait to get out of bed and just get stuck into this. And I woke up at about 6 and it was still dark and I thought, oh, drat. So I got up and had a drink of water and then climbed back into bed. And then as soon as I could, then I woke up because I didn't have the alarm clock set. So it was kind of 9 o'clock before I woke up and it was pouring down at that point. So I've had to sort of, you know, just stagger the, oh, there's a bit of wind getting up there. I've had to kind of stagger my time a wee bit, in and out between the mizzle, the drizzle and the outright rain. Now, I'm happy to answer questions because I'm just stood here by the door, pointing the camera towards my new rustic bed, which is taking shape. Let me see, is that mizzle eased off? Always been a gardener. I think that each one of us is born a gardener. Do you know that? Because, I mean, we're just connected to Mother Earth. Ah, the snowy tundra. Oh, that was something else I wanted to talk to you about. Very, very excited about this new project. I've been looking at winter sowing of seeds on YouTube. Now there's masses and masses of information, including Sarah Garden, the girl from Sweden. But I've actually been looking back further in time, and there are some wonderful women in America who've been doing this for some time and are quite, you know, self-effacing about it. You know, they're not kind of out there making a big hoo-ha. But there's so much information. So if you type into your search bar on YouTube, winter sowing seeds, remember all those containers that I had, all those clear plastic containers? That's what I'm going to use. So, excuse the pun, so, yeah, now you can winter sow in deep snow. I promise you, put that into the Google, the YouTube search bar, and you're going to be delighted with the amount of stuff you can do in the deep snow. So what I'm going to do is, as I fill the beds out, I'm going to get these containers and I'm going to pop them all along this side at the back of the beds. And Catherine, everything. If it's edible, sow it. That's as simple as that. I couldn't tell you what seeds I have. Good morning, Felipe. I couldn't tell you what seeds I have. I've got a whole bin full of them, and I'm just going to, sow. You know the Bealtaine Cottage motto? Plant like your life depends upon it, because it does. Well, sow like your life depends upon it. Certainly your health. Sow like your health depends upon it, for it does. Because you want to be eating freshly harvested fruit and veg. And oh, that's another thing as well I've seen. I was so excited by it. Growing carrots in buckets. No probs. You just fill the bucket with soil, you sprinkle the carrots, and away you go. So I'm going to be using the bucket system as well for my carrots and potatoes, and maybe for a few other root vegetables, but definitely carrots and potatoes. And I think another very pertinent issue is the how can I put it now? The accessibility of your fruit and veg. Now, fruit isn't harvested every day, so you can have that further away from the house. But as with all good permaculture plans, and this is goddess permaculture, so I'm working both with Mother Earth and all her life, and with basic common sense. Hi, Lauren. So it's very, hi bye. It's very important to be able to get to your vegetable beds on a daily or twice daily or thrice daily basis. So have them as close to your home as possible. And that's another reason why this section out here is going to be a vegetable bed. Because I can't ignore it, you see. When I'm coming into the cottage and I'm coming along this little path here and coming to the front door, what am I going to be seeing but my vegetables over there? So in terms of keeping them watered, keeping them weeded, etc., good idea to have them very close to your... Oh, turnip greens, wonderful. Yes, indeed. So the little potager beds out the back of the cottage, I'm going to be filling those as usual with flowers and vegetables. So well, thanks, Maria. So this is just I think it's really important to keep your imagination energized, so not to do the same thing each year. Try out something new. Look at what other people are doing. Look at the land that you have, even if you don't have much land and you might just have a little balcony. Look at what you have. Don't complain about what you haven't. Look at what you have and work with that. And you'll come up with lots and lots of ideas. If you only have a small space, think small plus containers, If you don't have a garden at all and you've got no access to anything other than a windowsill, think window boxes and maybe a community garden or an allotment. But don't let anything deter you, because remember the little videos I put up about making these rustic beds? And I mean, look how successful they've been. And that's the depth of them. Those stones, and some of them are quite shallow, the actual depth of them. All right? And the same on this side. Okay. So the main thing is to feel energized about it. Now let me just show you, because this is what I do with the money that I earn from the sale of my books and maps and calendars, and also from all my wonderful Patreon supporters, and for those who also make donations. So there's another bucket of seed balls. Now that's precisely the kind of bucket that I'm going to be using now for sowing seeds. Watch this space. It's going to be really exciting. Because you know I put up videos every day. I can't help myself. Communication. My father said, Colette, keep the lines of communication open at all times. So look what I've got in here. Bought a big sack of peanuts. That was €49. Those birdies are not going to go hungry. And oh, what weight is that now? 25 kilos. Yes, I lifted them into the car myself, and I'll lift them out myself. And then I've got a big sack of wild bird food. I think that's 20 kilos. Oh, yeah, that's 20 kilos, that one. Then I have a little bonsai tree that my daughter gave me. She said, Mum, this has died. I said, I'll try and bring it back to life for you. Let me just pop it out here now when I'm thinking of it. Just let it get a wee bit of rain. I'm going to be repotting that for her. Put that wee yoke down there for it. Now, so, birdies are going to be well fed. And you can see this wee rustic bed, look, which is absolutely the same model that I'm using now for the vegetable bed. And look how well that's settling in. So you don't actually need to go out buying stuff. Oh, I must just show you all these containers as well I've got in here. Because these containers are going to be filled with seeds. I'm going to be seed sowing. Here we go. Got those seeds there, look. So I've got lots of containers. And then I've got some big boxy containers as well, which I'm going to use. And there we go. Now, I think I'll go back indoors. I've got a half-drunk cup of tea, which I'm going to be topping up now and finishing off. Listen to that lovely crunch of gravel underfoot. There's something beautiful about that. I'm just going to walk through this little gap again just to kind of get the feel of it. This is something that I've always done from day one. Walk the land, walk the land, walk the land. Get a feel for it. Visualise how it's going to look. Form a picture in your head and then start embellishing that picture. Yes, and I've already got a good outline of how it's going to look. So there we go. Now, I'm loath to close the door. I think I'll just leave it open for a wee while. Where's my wee stone for keeping the door open? Here we go. There we go. Now, yes, it does, Barbara. I love the sound of gravel too. Let me just grab my tea wherever I left it now. Got to think, oh yeah, here we are. going to think we're left it. Now I will be making a little thank you video later on. I know I keep pushing these things forward, you know, but I'm a creature of impulse, and when the energy hits me to get out there and do something, then that's what I do. It's very intuitive, and it works. And I rarely actually sit down during the day. My daughter, my eldest daughter, said, "Mum, why don't you get a nice, you know those metal tables and chairs?" I mean, I actually had a metal table and 2 chairs. The metal table itself is out the back, and the chairs kind of rusted, and hello from Belarus. So I'm going to be looking over the next few months for a nice table and chairs, because I think actually to have, let me see now, to have one, you know, out there, let me just point, say there, would be nice, near the front door. I mean, I actually like to sit on my bench over there. Got a little bench, and I have that lovely blue chair. Oh look, there's another beautiful web. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. Beautiful. Right. Yeah, the birds aren't too sing-songy this morning. It's more of a kind of a gentle sound from the birds this morning. As you can see, I've topped up their feeders. And as I was working as well, I come up with the idea, I just seen something there in the garden. I thought, oh, that would make a good bird feeder, you know, a good bird table. Good morning, Kathleen. So that's another wee project now that I've slipped into my head there, making a little bird table. Could you imagine if this garden out here at the front, where I'm pointing the camera now, if that was what the usual Irish garden looks like, just a massive lawn? It's hardly worth pointing the camera at, is it? And of course it's lawn is high maintenance as well, and you don't get any life in it. But you know, good morning, Jane. Good morning, Noreen. When you plant a woodland, you know, the woodland is just alive. Good morning, Vera. Barbara. The woodland is alive, and it's rich in colour all the year round. It's just as uplifting to look at in January as it is in June. Good morning, Subi. Yes. It is, Craig. Although when I first got out of the car, and I couldn't tell you how many inches of rain. I don't go there with that kind of thing. You'd have to look that up. It'll tell you online. Where is Mr. Jack? Well, he's here by my side, of course. He's sitting here, I'm standing here, we're both looking out at the birds. He's never far away from me. Never. Oh, I lost my track there. But anyway, how many inches of rainfall? I really couldn't tell you. That's probably something that I've never thought of, and I know that the kind of left brain is more inclined to kind of measure stuff. I don't measure anything. Don't even measure stuff when I'm cooking or baking. I measure nothing. I don't keep to straight lines. I suppose I'm a bit wild, bit of a wild woman. When it rains, it rains. When it doesn't rain, it doesn't rain. And I'll say, oh, there's a lot of rain if it's flooding. Or there's not a lot of rain if there's drought. Anyway, I'm sure that you'll get to know my little idiosyncrasies, you know. As I always say, there's lots and lots of channels on YouTube that will explain the ins and outs of a gnat's behind. Or a flea's behind, you know. I don't. Absolutely. I love that song, Joni Mitchell. I'm glad you're laughing. Because sometimes my answers can be a wee bit brisk, and I never mean to offend anyone, you know. It's just how I am, you know. I kind of imagine myself measuring rainfall, and I think I don't recognise that, Colette. Yeah. I think over the course of this winter we've had I suppose, average amount of rain. It hasn't been heavy, it hasn't been light. Now yesterday and today has been a wee bit wet, and it's very rare, you know, that I'm pointing the video camera or the phone like I'm using here and there's rain, and I don't wait for dry times to go out and video. Everything I do is very spontaneous. This is probably why I couldn't possibly live with anyone, because I'm too spontaneous. Thank you, Chris. I am as well. Very excited. Very excited. So I think it's keeping that spontaneity as well, which keeps me very much in tune with Mother Earth. You know. Oh, that... Now, is that a crow flying up there? Yes, Donna, there is climate change happening without a doubt. And I know that people feel very uncomfortable with those two words. But what we do, and we're very good at it, we adapt. We adapt. And you know who has the last word in all of this? Mother Earth. There's lots of experts out there, mostly guys, who will be saying this, that and the other about what's going to happen. Well, good on them, I say. I wish I had the power of prophecy. Do you remember all those Old Testament prophets, you know? And the sky will rain down with fire and you'll all be dead and da-da-da-da-da. No. I don't connect with that kind of left brain nonsense. I just can't. We're having climate change. It's due to our activity on the earth and all the terrible things that we terrible things that we have done, and we've been very disrespectful of Mother Earth. But she's the one who's in charge. I try to work with her. That's the best I can do in this voyage on Mother Earth, with Mother Earth, for Mother Earth. This is my human voyage. I'm just making the most of it. And I'm also trying very hard to model a life. Oh, you're going to Mexico. Ooh. South of the border down Mexico way. Do you know who wrote that song? A fellow from Omagh, my hometown up in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland, and he'd never travelled outside of Omagh. And he wrote South of the border down Mexico way. He wrote Red Sails in the Sunset. His name escapes me. I remember his face. Yeah. Yeah, Google that one, Craig. No pouting, no doubting, no shouting. Only work with Mother and she will work with you. Absolutely, Charlotte. Absolutely. And get off your backside, away from the telly, and away from all the procrastinators and all. Jimmy Kennedy, there you go. Noreen, thank you. Yeah, and don't listen to the naysayers. if I if I had listened to the naysayers 14 years ago, none of this would be here. This would just be the same as the field next door. Grass and rushes. What's your favourite tree? I don't have a favourite. I just love trees. I love them. Love them. Love them. And when I die, I've told my children, a cardboard coffin or a willow coffin, put me into Mother Earth and put a tree on top of me. Yeah, you see pines, pines are lovely, but if you have a monoculture, you've got to expect a monoculture environment. So you'll have monoculture pests, you'll have monoculture growth, it'll all be very left brain, terribly well organised, but very dead. No, you've got to go with the flow. You've got to embrace your inner child. You've got to, just run with it and never mind what people say. You do what you feel is right. I don't know a pecan tree. Again, climate here in Ireland, it's changing a bit. I mean, I do have peach trees growing outside. I wouldn't have the space now for any kind of specific, kind of dedicated tree like that. Delphine, you and I know that politicians are deaf. Their ego only allows them to hear what they say to themselves, They're all living in bubbles. But, feel free to take any of my videos and email them to politicians or any of my blogs. I've done quite a few ranty type blogs where I've actually called out politicians, by name. But I've kind of moved gradually away from that because I try to focus all my energy on creating, all of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love pecans as well, or pecans. Love them. But here we have different nut trees that grow. I mean, we've got the hazelnuts, you see, they grow. And beech nuts, of course. I used to eat those when I was a child walking to school. Because the convent grounds, you have to walk through the convent grounds. And have you been to Kilkenny? Gosh, maybe decades ago. Pecans here in Omaha. Okay. Well, whatever they're called, I don't have them here. Yeah, we have to be the change we want to see in the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. I try all the time, well, effortlessly really now, to model a lifestyle that is not just sustainable, but is regenerative. You see? Thank you, Felipe. And that's why, would have been about 4 years ago or so, I actually paid a plumber to come and remove my flush toilet. And initially, initially my family were appalled. They said, "What? Mother, what are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I cannot continue on my journey with Mother Earth and be a hypocrite. And this is the first time I've been able to even think about getting rid of the flush toilet and having a compost toilet. Because living conditions in other places where I lived, like London, made that impossible, you know. So, yeah. So you have to live a regenerative life, you know. Are you into Druidry? No, I'm not really into anything. I'm completely into Mother Earth, and I see her as the great goddess. And the permaculture I practice now, I have termed goddess permaculture, because that takes into consideration all of life, not just us. I have a very simple philosophy for the world. My philosophy is, you take the word ego, which is destroying Mother Earth, and you replace one letter in that word. You replace the G with a C. You go from ego, which is destructive, to eco, which is kind, considerate, regenerative, thoughtful, respectful. And that's where we all need to be. And that's all I would say to anyone. Because once you take that change and you take it into yourself and you begin to apply it to all aspects of your life, you lose the ego. That's why you very rarely see me on the screen. And I know it's fine for other people if they want to be on the screen. I understand that. There's no problem with that. And I'm not in any way deriding anyone who, as part of their video channel, puts himself on the screen. That's perfect for them. And there's lots of videos that I enjoy watching with, you know, talking heads. That's great. For me, this is only ever about my take on things. No rabbits, Robert. No rabbits that you can see, anyway. I don't go on the screen. Why do we not have? Why are we not overrun with rabbits here in Ireland? Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, we don't have prolific fox hunting. Now, there are some hunts that still ride out, as they say, but you don't have prolific fox hunting. So therefore, who eats the rabbits? Think of the food chain, because we're absolutely bloody awful at interfering with the ecosystem. The foxes eat the rabbits. When they don't eat the rabbits, they're eating hens or whatever else they can get. Thank you, Bradley. But to a greater extent, Mother Earth is more in balance here in Ireland. No snakes. I'd be quite happy to have snakes here. Because a snake, of course, is the ultimate regenerative creature. It sheds its skin. It renews itself. And that's why snakes have always been associated with the goddess. Always. And why Saint Patrick, as far as I can see, he was a very destructive person, but the so-called Saint Patrick prided himself on ridding Ireland of the snakes. Well, I think the snake was a metaphor for the goddess. And that's precisely what patriarchal religions have all channeled their energy towards. Getting rid of the goddess, taking her out of the whole story of creation, and deriding women and subjugating women. And I have no part in that. I lived for most of my life seeing my mother being subjugated because she was a convert to Catholicism and took it so seriously, and she never felt good enough, and relied on the priest to tell her what to do, even in bed. even in bed. She visited the priest after she'd had her 11th child. 11th child. And she was told by her doctor, Dr. Aidan Lagan up in Oma, that she would need to go on the pill because it was going to be dangerous for her to keep having children. And she said, Dr. Lagan, I'll have to go and ask the priest. And I think the priest was Monsignor McDowell. I think Father Clerkin and Monsignor McDowell in Oma at the Sacred Heart Church. And the priest, as my mother said, he ran me out of the parochial house. Such was his disgust at my mother even mentioning, could she have permission to go on the pill? Well, religion? No, I've nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. And as I said at the very beginning, I am a free spirit, I am a wild woman, I'm a woman of the earth. I will not be dictated to. And everything that you see comes from that philosophy. I work and serve only Mother Earth. And I find that I'm spiritually enriched by that. I'm enriched by it, you know, and I feel closer to the great creatrix of the cosmos, which I actually, I mean, it's hard to kind of believe stuff, because to believe stuff means that you don't question stuff. But I would kind of imagine it's quite possible that Mother Earth is the very centre of the universe. Well, that's an interesting perspective, you see. Because let's face it, I mean, listen to this. Listen to this beauty and look at the beauty. And we know from space travel that this little planet is like blue and beautiful in the middle of what appears to be almost a void. Well, that's a very sad comment to make, isn't it? That you'd cut that down to make more of a garden. Shame on you. That's what I say. Absolute shame on you. I've planted over 1,100 trees and I'm delighted with them. And as soon as I go on to the laptop, I'll remove your comment because I find that offensive. So there you go. That's the left brain talking. Very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. That's the left brain approach. Shameful. Anyway, I'll give you one last little peek at what I'm doing, because I'm going to go in now and just reported the comment. Oh, it's all right. That comment and the commentator will be booted off into cyberspace very shortly, so you don't even have to report the comment. The commenter will be, I will be opening the hatch into cyberspace and he'll be sucked out. Off he goes. I've no doubt it is a he. Anyway, this is what I do to people who want to be nasty and leave nasty comments. They can go and do it in someone else's channel. They're not going to do it on mine. Blessings to you all. My arm's gone a wee bit sore here holding this camera up. Oh, New England Endler, or whatever you're called. Naff off. I'm going to be naffing you off shortly. Blessings to you all.